we invite open, curious minds to the Hotel Guest Wellbeing Show. I'm your host, Estee Manning. Please join me on a discovery journey of vibrant well-being to live happy, healthy, connected and thriving lives. The health journey can be quite confusing and there is no one size fits all. We are all so incredibly unique in our genetic makeup, the environmental and social influences that surround us, the foods that we consume and the products we use. In this interview with Pettina Stanghon, we talk about where to really start with health to get a full picture of our own unique specific biomarkers. Once our health blueprint has been established, we can then look at sustainable and natural lifestyle options to move forward with so we have the energy and vitality we need to thrive in life. Pettina is founder of Whole Life Health Foods and Noosa Confidential, a team of over 30 handpicked health professionals that offer integrative health programs. They are Australia's only 360-degree gut health-focused solution, utilising the best of functional medicine, traditional psychology and psychotherapy, coupled with the leading-edge evidence-based natural therapy solutions. What they are doing is really paving the way in Australia towards what I believe will be much more common in the future of a health system that really supports our well-being naturally and holistically. In this interview, we touch on why we should optimise our health and well-being, the different types of testing, common health issues, the epidemic of sugar addiction, food as medicine, aligning to our values, optimising living spaces, hotel well-being experiences, customised health programs, and so much more. You're in for a real treat today to find more clarity about how to move forward with a health solution that is unique specifically to you to take your well-being to the next level. I'd love to just first find out about how the pieces of the health and well-being puzzle came together for you.
Well, it was over time, basically. I had my own health challenges from 14. I had my own addiction challenges, whether it was food or drugs and alcohol from a very early age. And then I had my children, and I have an autoimmune disease myself. I have pyrroles. My son has pyrroles, which I found out when he was about 5. And at the time, there was no testing in Australia. We had to send fecal samples to the States, and I stumbled across a Dr. Greg Emerson, who was at that point had a clinic in Brisbane. He doesn't anymore, but and he had been working 50% in the States and 50% in Australia. And to my knowledge, he was the only person that was really pioneering, starting to do methylation testing and looking at pyrroles and looking for recessive genes, MTHFR recessive genes. It was all new for me. That was in around 2007, 2008. And I had lived in London for 12 years from the age of 17, 18 and worked as a chef over there. And so I had a background of food, and I just started to learn more about that connection between food and psychology and well-being and anxiety. My son was highly anxious, and I felt I had done everything right, in inverted commas, based on my model of the world. I had co-slept, I had extended breastfed, I'd had to have an intervention during the birth, so I had done everything in my power to make sure that his immune system was strong. I tend to be a researcher and somebody that really, I can be rigid around my beliefs and implementing them. So I was shocked when he had bowel issues and anxiety and sleep issues and what have you. So just putting all of that together, my own passion for food, reading Dr. Natasha McBride's book called The Gut and Psychology Syndrome, and she pioneered the GAPS protocol. That was in about 2009, 2010. And starting to marry, I was working as a psychotherapist by that point, and starting to really see this connection between gut health, mental health, people believing there's something wrong with me or with my life, and coming to a therapist and looking to blame events or stress, and certainly stress is significant, but not understanding their own body first and foremost, and particularly women, with hormones and with parenting and with children and hyperactivity and sleep and just, I just wanted people to understand, and my patients and clients to understand that connection. So that's where it started for me.
Yeah, I guess it's like, because I started doing my blood work a few years ago, and from, I guess, my perspective, it's like, is that where we need to start? Do we not know, like, how can we really improve on our health if we don't know that? And I'm not talking about just the normal blood work that you get from the doctor, because I've gone to the doctor and they said, oh, you're fine. They don't even call me to have a follow-up consult. But working, with a functional medicine doctor, it's a whole different story. And there is so much more potential for me and my energy and, how I want to feel, that, like, I feel like I'm missing out in the current system. And so I just believe, like, what you're doing and bringing to people is so important, because we can feel so much more better than what we currently do, but we just kind of think it's the norm.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And there's a culture of avoiding discomfort, and exactly as you just said, most people don't know what feeling great feels like.
Yeah.
And most people seem to have been conditioned to believe that as we get older, we should just suck it up. I mean, I've had a hip replacement. I've got arthritis, which is why I follow an anti-inflammatory protocol. And when I was looking for doctors to consider whether I was going to have this hip replacement, I think I saw 6, and 5 out of the 6 said, just you can take up to 6 Panadol Forte a day to manage the pain, because I'd had 11 years of chronic pain. I had broken off pieces of bone in there. I had no cartilage left. But because I was 42 or 3 at the time, they said the last thing that hip should do is climb up onto an operating table, just, pump yourself full of painkillers until you can't move. And I just thought, and these doctors were morbidly obese and, there wasn't a picture of health amongst them. And when I found Dr. Patrick Weinreich, who did my surgery, and he said, you're on turmeric, what anti-inflammatories are you on? Oh, great, you do Pilates, what's your movement like? He understood the whole picture, and he did the hip replacement, and he was extraordinary. But he was young, he's fit, he studies functional medicine, he was with it. Wow. And it's like chalk and cheese. It's just like there's doctors who get their degree and just follow a particular medicalizing discomfort and pain and prescribing, and then those that are going beyond that and educating themselves and integrating with other practitioners and looking at the whole person. And you're right, at the moment, I mean, I have great optimism for the future, but right now, there's not a lot of there's one way and there's the other way, and
it's
never
not
the twain
merging,
shall meet at the moment.
Well,
yeah,
I think that will change in the future, but
I do too.
It's more awareness, getting it out there, So what are some of the things that you see with working with patients that you kind of see consistently in either deficiencies, common deficiencies, and common sort of issues that people are really struggling with, and whether that's from just today's modern lifestyle and way of living or whatever it is?
Yeah, so really common, and I talk about this a lot on the Noosa Confidential social media, which is addiction. And I'm not talking about, heroin addicts or ice addiction, although obviously that's something too. But, I often say that there isn't an ice epidemic. Try looking at sugar. Try looking at alcohol. And, those are at epidemic levels, and they're completely normalised. And, we love to shout about the ice epidemic and those addicts. Well, I see addicts every single day, and they all have, a misunderstanding of what's really included in their food mostly, and this whole kind of everything in moderation. Well, that would be fine if we didn't have a food industry that was so corrupted and there's just these food-like products that just aren't food, but that people go, oh, it's food, it's it's good. And it's, so sugar, people not really knowing what's in their food and the level of sugar and refined sugars or types of sugar. I'm not just talking about looking for the word sugar in your, in your ingredients list, and addictions to sugar. I mean, at Noosa Confidential, we have people with heroin addiction and coming off prescription medication, and I'm telling you, the come down from sugar is just as significant, and the way that people behave and how uncomfortable they are because there's no refined sugars is significant. So just that misunderstanding and people just normalising those types of things, and alcohol's the same, which comes down to sugar as well. And not really understanding, you said it earlier, what good feels like. Women normalising, and I won't get into feminism and the cultural struggle, all that, but just the normalisation of not feeling okay and bloating and weight gain and painful periods and 14-year-olds being put on the pill and not understanding that suicidal ideation and mental health issues are the most common byproduct of that. And so you've just got young women who are just so disconnected from their bodies. And so there's just this consistent disconnect of how you feel in your body and what good can feel like, and understanding it and normalizing dis-ease, a lack of ease in your body and not really knowing or being educated. Certainly the schools don't educate our children, and most parents don't know to educate what you need, what nutrient dense food is, and that it's not a given that you have painful periods. It's not a given that you have mood swings. It doesn't have to be like that. Most people just don't realise.
Yeah. And lately I've been hearing about how 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut, like the feel-good hormone. So how are we supposed to feel good when we're not even producing that in our body? And so when you look at, food as a way to feel really good and start to understand that and learn about that, that's how you are naturally going to feel better in 100%. Who you are.
100%. And that's what I used to see when I was just in private practice. A lot of women and mums who would come in to either talk about themselves and their marriages or their children and behavioural issues. That were two really common themes. And as I was learning about all of this, it became my practice to say, okay, we can do the download on your marriage and events or your unhappiness with that, but before we go into that, what do you eat? How do you sleep? Do you sit at a table and communicate with your husband? What rituals, or what's the culture of your family, and what is your understanding of food, and how's your libido? And because when we feel uncomfortable or unhappy, I'm not happy, therefore something must be wrong, and therefore I seek to find what's wrong. I start looking for things. Oh, my husband's driving me mental, and my children aren't listening to me, or my job's unsatisfying, and we tend to be conditioned to look outside of ourselves. And if we can just stop, and it sounds so basic to say, maybe it's your marriage, but maybe it's your sleep and what you're eating and the alcohol you're drinking every evening and the coffees you have every morning, and then the sugar cravings you have at 3 p.m. and the Mars bar and the, Coca-Cola. And I know that seems ridiculous when you're considering leaving your husband, but, we can just come back to basics, because when you start feeling good, your lens on reality starts to shift.
Wow, that is huge.
Yeah.
That is huge, because like you said, everything starts to change. When you start to feel better, you make better choices in life.
Yeah.
And actually it was interesting, I heard something the other day where it says your microbiome attracts other similar microbiome. And I just thought, wow, isn't that unbelievable? So if you switch to becoming quite healthy, you're naturally just going to attract other people with similar bacteria. But it makes so much sense. And that's just a natural way to to really start to align your life in a way that brings in more fulfillment, more joy.
100%.
So I just love that angle of happiness and joy coming through food. The very basic thing that we consume to fuel us.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And alignment is the key word. For me, it's that if we come back to your values and beliefs and we start to get clear on those, and then we look at, well, are those in alignment with how you're communicating first to yourself, then to your loved ones, with the companies you're supporting, with how you shop, with what you put in your body, what you put on your body? Like, there needs to be alignment. You will feel better within yourself. Forget about your microbiome and your physicality, just the alignment with your own beliefs and values, if that is getting reflected throughout your life. And absolutely, I mean, we have on program, in the residential program, taking guys to Noosa markets on a Sunday and with our nutritionists, and they arrive not caring about food and not really seeing the connection, I mean, they don't, I don't know, I need to stop drinking, my wife's going to leave me, I'm going to lose my job. Okay, well, let's talk about bone broth, trying to educate people about it, and then getting them excited. And we do food as medicine classes and get them hands-on, and most of them, not all, but many of them get excited, and because a lot of them, particularly men, and this is a cliche, and I am, it's a generalization, but get pushed out of the kitchen. They're not really welcome unless they're particularly passionate, which isn't a lot. And so when we have them in there with our nutritionists, and they're going and buying the produce on a Sunday morning and coming back and making pate and learning about organ meats and the impact on their body, and it's like, oh, I love pate. Most people love pate, and I can eat pate and make some seed crackers and have that for lunch, and learn how to make fermented foods and bone broth to sip throughout the week. And it's interesting, it's empowering, it brings power back to the individual of how to manage and sustain well-being. So it's
and the wife's going to love that.
Of course.
She's going to go, wow, keep going, keep doing this. And it's going to energize their relationship and bring something new into it.
Yeah.
And, shift that focus into well-being. And I think that's a wonderful practice for people to do, to be able to, whether they travel and they're looking for wellness experiences to share together. I mean, that's just going to bring people closer. Yeah. And, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that actually is perfect, because we work with a lot of hotels. And a lot of the hotels are apartments, so they don't necessarily have the facilities to, have, whether it's massage or whatever they have in that space. Yeah. But for me, like when I travel, I love to, stay somewhere, but if they don't have the facilities, I can go and experience things in other places. And I just see there's such a gorgeous collaboration between hotels and people like yourself for people to come and have wellness weekends or wellness weeks and get to, whether it is, maybe it is a couple coming together to connect and to really become much more closer through that wellness experience, or whether it is for, CEOs or busy executives to get a handle on their stress, or, whether it is just to feel more connected to who you are, because we're so busy in this modern day life that I think alignment's the word for me too, and connection. How can we then bring that into our everyday, so we're not going from busy, stressful work environment to, alignment and peace, and then back to this, but to merge it and to really begin to live that way. So what are some of the things that you can offer? Because I know that you work with hotels in this way.
Yeah, so, I mean, I agree with you. Rather than going away, doing a detox, coming back, doing a retox, not really having learned anything, not knowing how to implement that in your everyday life. So for us, it's trips to the farmers markets, and then coming back and showing people how easy it is to, again, support your local suppliers and growers, come back and fill your fridge, put on a broth for the week and store it, and it's done. Bringing your family together. So as you said, whether it's a company and helping executives and business owners, entrepreneurs, because it's very easy, as you would know as well, when you're building a business, to prioritize the growth of the business and staff and to sacrifice your own health and well-being. So getting to a point of helping company cultures to integrate health and well-being, and to have broth in their fridges, and for them to understand why that's valuable. So educating them about it, rather than having a Coke vending machine, have a broth option. And
that is awesome.
Yeah, just and have them know, remember why we're doing this. Because that's the other thing. You can learn and think, oh, that was a great experience, and then go home and forget. So how are we going to implement this back at work or back at home? Learning about kombucha, learning how to make things like pates, and a lot of these things are old-fashioned foods. Like, these are not new fandangled new age things. Like, these are your basics that your grandparents were doing on a Sunday, the whole family, kids getting involved, and that in a lot of other cultures, South American and European cultures, it still happens where the family comes together and has a big meal on a Sunday and preps that food for the week ahead and what have you, doing a roast and having a selection of vegetables and having some greens and having a kid stripping silver beet, or, just getting hands-on. There's nothing better. So we do that, trips to the markets, food as medicine, workshops, people that might want to take it a bit further, learning about gut health and doing gut health workshops, and obviously integrating broth and collagen and smoothies, and learning a bit more about that. So it can be from just the basics right through to quite specific workshops and educational programs.
And then do you do blood work as well for people?
We do, yeah. So we say, don't guess, test, and you can go from basic right through to really specific. And a basic, exactly as you said, you can go to a doctor, ask for some general bloods. If you're within the range of normal, they won't even call, they'll just call and say you're good to go. When you have a naturopath who's trained, or a functional integrated doctor, or a GAPS practitioner who looks at the same readout, they're looking for totally different things. And the range of normal, keep in mind, includes more than 50% obese people who have heart disease and diabetes and autoimmune disorders. So it's like, what range of normal do you want to be in here? And where, you might be just before you hit the red bit and it's like, I don't want to be near the red bit, but you didn't even call me and I'm right near the red bit, so it's like, I want to be in here in the middle. So having bloods done where you're looking at inflammatory markers, and where the person interpreting is marrying different information, histamine levels and inflammatory markers and thyroid and cortisol tested morning, noon and night to see when it's elevated, and whether that's appropriate, right through to looking at genetic testing, which we do, looking at, with a lot of women, even separate to your regular blood pathology, we do hormonal profiling, which is a saliva test where you can, and I really impress upon women to do this, because one of the things that I find frightening is how disconnected most women are from understanding how their body works, what their menstrual cycle's like, how their hormones work, what their cycle's like. And when you show a woman, well, here you go, you did the saliva test over a 24-hour period, and your testosterone and your progesterone, and this is you, this is how you cycle. And it's that, didn't know that about myself, and I get moody 6 days out from my period, and that's when I get fat, and I usually go on, and it's that this is how your body operates. And if you're informed, and then you can inform your loved ones, which will really help them out as well, and you can take ownership for it, which is even more exciting. So the benefits of that are huge. And then there's gut microbiome testing, which is a fecal test, much more comprehensive, but gives you a fantastic picture of overgrowth, undergrowth, for want of a better word. What is your specific microbiome makeup? And with that information, you really can make some significant changes.
So could someone, say, come up for a week, get their bloods, all the tests done in the beginning, get the results within a few days, and then you can start to work with them on that level and suggest a plan and support them, ongoing as well. Absolutely.
So, and sometimes if we know somebody's coming up, we can send, they can get some pathology done before they come, so the results are here. But otherwise, we take, usually one of our naturopaths will take the client to the pathologist, and then there's other tests that we have that you can do. Almost everything comes back within 3 to 5 days, except the bioscreen, which can take 2 weeks or so. But again, you start to get a really clear picture with the blood and the saliva, and then we get the microbiome testing back, and then that's kind of the icing on the cake of getting really specific. And we do that remotely over the phone, sending out, talking about, and
wow,
you don't need to be face to face.
Yeah. So by getting people, because being in Noosa, you have rooms for some people to stay, but you also work with hotels where your patients can go and stay.
Yeah.
So in an ideal world, what would a hotel look like that supports these patients in their new wellness journey?
Yeah, so we use local hotels and apartments, and people come from all over Australia and just come to us daily at our centre. And those hotels are having great bedding, because sleep is massive, and having an environment where, because we'll be working with the client and educating them about the benefits of sleep and the importance of sleep hygiene, having blackout curtains, having pillow options. I mean, that's something that can be really valuable, because a lot of our clients have chronic pain issues and a generic kind of fluffy pillow, and the quality of the bed, the quality of the bed linen, blackout curtains, as I said, windows and aeration. We tend to have it close to our centre where they can walk, but hotels that offer bicycles, where because they don't necessarily want to hire a bike, and in Noosa we're in an amazing location where hire a car, where if you have a bicycle, most people are quite happy to poodle along and use that. So, just that offers them, and then a kitchenette, because we work with helping them to reconnect with food, and a fridge, and doesn't need to be schmick, but just something where they can heat up broth and store some vegetables, and we have ready-made meals, and they can stock those and reheat them.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess things like even organic products, because I know a lot of hotels provide products that they're just like, I don't want to put them anywhere near my skin, because they may sound amazing, but the chemicals in there obviously seep into our skin, go into our bloodstream, into our body, and they are toxins going in. And
I mean, organic, that's what we have in our residence for our guests, where toxin free. We don't use any even just our cleaning products. We don't use any wipes to disinfect, things like that, which are terrible for your microbiome. You want bacteria. So nothing that is focused on getting rid of all the bugs, but definitely beautiful candles, beautiful soaps and skincare, and low toxin cosmetics or creams or shampoos, things like that, because your skin's the biggest organ in your whole body, and that's really important.
And what about movement? So whether it's yoga or what do you usually work with your patients on? What's that kind of movement level that...
So we have an exercise physiologist and 2 yoga therapists. One is a mindfulness CBT yoga therapist, and so it depends. An exercise physiologist does an assessment first to look at chronic pain and restrictions. And we do that because, again, there's lots of great PTs out there who are passionate, and CrossFitters and F45, and, I love all that stuff. But there's a lot of people in there that shouldn't probably be doing the types of movements that they are. And I'm one of them. I'm a go hard or go home girl. And that's why I had chronic pain and ended up with a hip replacement, honestly. So... So having an assessment with an exercise physiologist who then does a prescription movement protocol, and we use an app, and that gets uploaded specifically for that client with their prescription of movement. And the ex-phys will say, high intensity interval training is great, or no, it needs to be gentle movement, or no running, or outside or inside. So really quite specific. Plus they give them a selection of exercises to do at home, and there's a little video, and they follow the video on the app and click through their series of exercises that they're given, and stretches. So again, a hotel or a room where there's space to put down a yoga mat and be able to move is ideal, or a balcony or what have you. And then that exercise physiologist dictates to our yoga therapists and our trainers, personal trainers, what type of movements prescribed for that person. And then a lot of people then choose to book the trainers to come in each morning and take them on their exercise protocol. Might be a walk through Noosa National Park, might be Mount Coolum, you know, it might be stand-up paddling or a surf lesson, or it might be yoga or Pilates. It really depends on what's appropriate for that client.
It's really interesting because I used to do a lot of, you know, workouts and, you know, lifting weights and stuff like that. But what I've realised is that I've kind of gone more to gentle yoga style because my days are pretty intense, like, and so it's like that balance, it's that synergy between the, you know, the yin and yang kind of style, and it's just been interesting watch where I'm being led based on what I'm doing during the day to create that balance. Yeah.
Manya, who's a very well-known teacher here, owns Aloha Noosa at the Noosa Blue Resort, and she kicks my butt. You know, she tries to get me into yin yoga, and I love Bikram and Ashtanga, and I sit there going, God, I'm going to punch somebody in the face. You know, and it's such a struggle for me to do yin and to slow it right down. So it is, and so guess which one you should be doing, Pettina. So it's interesting. It's so interesting noticing what comes up for you, and we have the same, you know, clients who have injuries and then meet the ex-phys and want to be given a go hard, you know, oh no, I love doing this, and it's like what you love and what you need now sometimes are not aligned, and then when it annoys you that you're not allowed to do the thing, then you have to, that's for the psych session to kind of go, it's really triggering me that I'm not allowed to do that. So it's, again, it comes back to that whole life health. That's interesting, where, you know, who can look at that? Oh, well, that came up in my ex-phys session, but I'm going to bring that into my counselling session. So,
that is awesome. There's such a balance there, isn't there? Like, that is that holistic approach. It's not just health. It's the psychological kind of side of things as well. Absolutely. And they work so beautifully together. You can't really have one without the other, but often you lead in with this and eventually it comes in this, or you come in that way and leads in that way. But that holistic approach is definitely both. Yeah, exactly as you said. Everybody comes at it, you know, it might be weight loss, and somebody will come to us saying, I'm menopausal and I've put on weight, so I get that it might be my hormones, and you come in from that angle, but it leads into some psych sessions and an education about gut health and hormones, and then dietary adjustments, and then, you know, it just, and there's no right or wrong. It's just what's usually it's what's blinking the loudest for the person. Oh, my marriage is terrible, or I've got an addiction, or I'm fat, or, you know, whatever the thing is. Yeah, but people can basically come to you guys and get a custom experience based on whatever they're looking for. And then you guys will look after them, you know, throughout that process.
Absolutely.
And get them feeling great and vital and, you know, full of energy. And looking at the bigger picture, the bigger opportunity that we have available to us by really optimizing our health, by really having the body functioning at its best. Like, I feel like that's a space that we're definitely moving into now, because people, it's I guess people are feeling really strongly like they have a big message to share with the world, and they need that energy in order to be able to do it. They need that clarity. They need that focus and understanding. How do you see that as part of the bigger picture of where we're going as a, you know, as a race? Like, I know this is a very big picture perspective, but I believe that when we are optimal, when we are functioning at our best, we allow information to come through and to share wisdom and experiences and knowledge that needs to be shared in order for people to really grow.
Look, I see you know, for me it comes back to alignment and that broader lens, and that's being reflected culturally with women and feminism, and how that's being shifted, and the female voice and roles and what it means to be a man, and you know, it starts to just bleed out into these much broader conversations and connection and vulnerability and, you know, all of those things. They're the things that become the bigger discussions with our clients in particular. And exactly as we were just saying, they may come for weight loss or, you know, to look at maybe examining alcohol, the role of alcohol in their life. But then you go back to your beliefs and your values and then your priorities and then alignment, and then we go back to basics with, well, what are you putting in your body and what are your relationships like and how do you spend your time, and then well, how are you conditioned to perceive yourself as a man or a woman, and then that's interesting. So and it just becomes this evaluation of broader and bigger issues. And I believe that the dis-ease that we feel within our bodies and the dis-ease that erupts, whether it's you know, hormonal or cancer or obesity or autism or, you know, whatever, all the different manifestations, I believe it's a reflection of the priorities that we've had up to this point. And I see a massive shift of people maybe starting to evaluate and look at the why and just be curious. You know, what was the why again around this? You know, I think culturally we make decisions based on fear frequently and avoidance of discomfort, and whether that's a decision about what you eat because it's quick and I'm hungry right now and so I have this need for immediacy, or I'm a mum and I feel like I feel like a bad mum if I don't give my kid what he wants and he loves Uncle Toby's muesli bars, or I don't know, you know, something that you know isn't good, or McDonald's or whatever, you know, just reevaluating your priorities and your why, and that's happening from a, you know, macro to or micro to macro, whichever one it is, and that's fantastic. You know, that's exciting, and I do think it's starting with dis-ease and discomfort in the individual. You know, I see addiction as a example of that, you know, a desire, and I come back to my definition of addiction, which isn't the ice addict on the street in Nambour, it's the mum, you know, self-medicating at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and not just mums, but, you know, just that whole culture of
reaching
numbing yourself out with something. Sugar, alcohol,
Yeah.
sex, retail therapy, significance, success, whatever.
So bringing back more conscious choices.
Absolutely.
Paying attention to those things that we reach for and just going, oh, I'm okay. And then that's when we can start to bring back more awareness to our everyday choices.
Yeah.
That changes everything.
Absolutely.
I believe once we get rolling on that path, everything changes.
Yeah.
Life changes, and it just opens up so much more opportunity and potential for ourselves. And it's like I really see health as one of those pieces of the puzzle that is like the beginning of, you know, that greater level of self-awareness.
Agree.
And it's then exciting for people to go on that path.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And most people require discomfort before they're willing to stop and evaluate.
Yeah.
You know, that's why hitting a crisis is your greatest opportunity for growth. You know, when life's going to plan, or you think it is, and it's easy, you're not growing, and you're not really going to even be willing to say, oh, well, let me stop and look at this, because you think, good, I'm sorted.
Yeah.
It's not until, you know, relationship breaks down or your health fails in one way or another, or, you know, whatever, financial crisis, that there's a willingness to stop and look. And that's why it's great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And the more tools are out there for people to be able to grab onto and work with, then the easier it's going to be for people to be able to move through that. Yeah. Because often there's a lot of resistance when we hit those, you know, those things that happen in our life. And there is a level of self-responsibility that we need to take, and that's very hard to do. It is.
And because unfortunately there's a medicalisation of discomfort, meaning let's ease the symptoms. I don't want to feel pain or discomfort. Take a Panadol, you know, have a glass of wine, go and see the doctor, get an antidepressant, you know, and it's that, not that any of those things don't have their place, they all do. Yeah. But before you do that, you know, I mean, I have clients that will take a Panadol before they'll even think, have I drunk any water today? Maybe that's why I've got a headache. Yeah, yeah. It's that. So just have the water first. Go and have 2 glasses of water and sit down for a minute, turn your phone off, very good chance your headache's going to go and you won't need the Panadol. Or even try turmeric before you take the Panadol. Or, you know, it's just a willingness to not use discomfort or pain as an indicator that something's wrong, but to just use it as an indicator that it's time to have a look at something.
Oh, love that. So one of the questions I love to ask is around alignment. And what are the things that you do daily that help you align your energy and also help really focus in on what you're trying to create, you know, allowing your message to come through, all of those things that you do daily?
Yeah, I mean, my diet is my foundation, and for me, it's not, you know, I have an autoimmune disease. You know, I have inflammation that will flare up like that, and I'm not, you know, not everybody's like that. Some people can do 80-20. I can't because I just can't. You know, if I kind of say on a Sunday I'm going to go and have a Big Mac and a Mars bar, I'll be in big trouble. You know, I'll have a lot of pain and discomfort. So, you know, I don't drink, and I eat a certain way with an anti-inflammatory focus, and I do a broth fast once a week, and I have broth every single day. You know, food is my foundation, and then sleep. And then movement. So, and then probably nature. And I have dogs and children, and you know, I'm not a massively social person. I think I said this to you when I first met you. You know, I find being around lots of people very draining. I have no problem with one-on-one, and I have no problem presenting to a big room of people. But to walk out, you know, and network and speak, you know, I just find absolutely exhausting. So I have time alone at some point every single day. I do wake up early. I'm a morning person, so I tend to have alone time for at least an hour, usually with my dogs, and a cup of tea, and turning off phones, you know, switching them off for
That's a great
time.
One, isn't it? Yeah, it's such a distraction. But I'll just check.
Absolutely. And I love social media. I mean, I could very easily have an unhealthy relationship because I do love it and I use it for my business. So, and I connect with lots of other businesses and bloggers and podcasts, and I love information. So I'm constantly got blogs on and podcasts on in the car, and I can get very information driven. So it's very important for me to just turn it off and turn it on silent, even if it's on. So I don't have this ping, dopamine rush.
One thing I want to touch on that you mentioned was, like, how powerful is learning to you and information and you know, with where you want to go and what you want to create?
Yeah, it's a constant. So I'm really passionate about education and people that are pushing the boundaries. You know, the people that do the Mind Forum down in Sydney each year, researchers and doctors that are risking their reputation to, you know, push those boundaries. And I'm pretty passionate about research, and you know, it's exciting, so it helps to drive me. And also I think it's really important to challenge your beliefs, because it's easy to say, I'm Mrs. Low Carb, or I don't know, I'm ketogenic, and that's what I do. I think that's the foundation of anti-inflammatory, and there is no one size fits all. So it's appropriate for a lot of people for certain reasons, and then for others it's really not, and really understanding that. An example is last week actually, listening to a podcast about pulses and beans and the role of beans in gut health, and then kind of listening to the podcast, I think it was Michael Mosley, and thinking, but I don't eat pulses because I have so much discomfort, and because most of them are tinned, and unless you soak them and prepare them properly and have kombu with them and pre-digest the and blah, 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 you know, so I start going into it, and I contact our naturopaths, and why don't we have beans again? And I was just reading this, and then they start to, you know, so it's dynamic, and that feeds me. You know, I just love that that discussion and robust debate. I find, I love debating. That was one of my things at school. So I love that. I love research and disagreement and discussion, and I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we've covered so much. I've loved so much the conversation. Is there anything you want to share at all?
Not as usual. I've probably covered everything. Yeah, I can get on a bit of a rant, but really, I suppose it's more encouraging people to be curious, and about their health, and be interested. Listen to some podcasts and do a little bit of research, because I don't like the way that we eat or what we recommend even being seen as some type of health food. I think it's just food. It's just food as medicine, and to help you thrive. So that's probably, get back to basics, get your testing, don't guess. They're probably the foundational things.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
For show notes, resources, links, and more about Noosa Confidential and Whole Life Health Foods, visit pebbledesign.com/2. If you like this conversation, we love your feedback. Leave a review, a question, or a quick comment. That way we can invite more guests on the show around wellbeing topics that you're more curious about to live a happy, healthy, thriving, and vital life. Subscribe on iTunes or our website pebbledesign.com to be part of the Guest Wellbeing conversation.